Hi, this is Renn, and this is writing standard equations of a circle. So we have our circle already here, and we have our center point right here, and another point on the line, which is on the circle. So we're looking at the center point here, and we see it's at -1, 2. So we're going to write that out. -1, 2. And as we can see here, what we're trying to figure out first is the radius of the circle. So the radius is the distance between the center and any point on the circle. So we know this because we can have these 2 points here. So I'll draw a line from the center. So to figure out this distance, we can use a right triangle and use a distance formula that comes from the Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to call this, I'll get a different color, line R, because it's the radius. And what we want to do first is figure out the change in x. So as we can see here, this long ways is x. So we're going to go out from the center point, making a line. And we're going to label this the change in x. Pretend that's a triangle. And then we're going to go from this point here and meet. And we're going to call this one the change in y. Now right here, we have a right triangle. So as we know already, the Pythagorean theorem uses a squared plus b squared equals c squared to find out different sides of a right triangle. So we're going to use that in our own way here. We're going to write r squared equals the change in x squared plus the change in y squared. So what we want to do here is we want to figure out the distance. What is the change in x and what is the change in y? So we can do this in two different ways. We can either see that here this is -1 and -4, So we can do this in two different ways. We can either see that this is -1 and this is 4, and we can go the change in x equals 4 minus -1, which we know is 5. So this must be 5 squared. Or we could go here. I'll show you this example of y. We can just count from the points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. So this is 5 as well. Okay, now that we have that, we know that 5 squared is 25. And 5 squared is 25. So when we add these two numbers up, we get 50. So r squared is equal to 50. And we don't want r squared, we want just r. So we're going to root this like so. So we have r equals root 50. I'm just going to remove this now that we have it written. Okay, perfect. Oh. Now that we have that, we can write out the formula for the circle. Okay, so on the side here, I've written out an example of a standard equation for a circle, and we're just going to plug in our center points into A and B. So let's make sure we don't get these all together. And we can write it out. X, and then our A is -1, so we'd write minus -1 square. plus y, and our b would be 2, so minus 2 squared equals, and we know that r squared is 50, so we can just leave it at that. And we only have to do one thing to simplify it, so I'm just going to write out the final answer here. X plus 1, because it's negative and negative, that's a positive, square plus y minus 2 squared equals 50. Okay, and there we have our final answer. This is Lily Renn, and I hope you enjoyed writing standard equation of a circle.